Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, we all love ways to use up scraps. Now, sometimes I have lots of strips, and sometimes I have these little, off-cut rectangles. I have all sorts of things. So I'm going to show you another way that I use those up today, that I specifically look for to use up these pieces. Now, I have a little bit of copy paper here, so super thin. We're using this simply as a base. Now, of course, there are always so many things that you can use as scraps, whether that be gel printed pieces, it could be rice paper, it could be rub-ons, it can be washi tape, it can be paper pads, it could be anything, honestly anything. So I want to show you a couple of different versions as usual, and I want to show you the first one just using some washi tape. Now, as I said, this is a piece of copy paper. It's not a specific size. When I was cutting this down on my trimmer, I just cut down sort of smaller rectangles, and you'll see I actually muddle the size. I run into a pickle later on, but where there's a will, there's a way, and we can solve it, and we end up solving it. Spoiler alert. So all I'm doing is putting down some strips here, and this can be a great way to create a quick background. It can be a great way to create something that will go that you can cut up and use. You can die cut from this, die cut out some birds, some hearts, some just random shapes that you can add into the backgrounds. It's a great filler. Washi tape is a great filler. So I have not even filled the whole sheet here because I knew what I was going to do with this one today, but just in case you make a whole lot of backgrounds, and in fact I actually showed in a very recent video around using up your scraps, around creating little masterboards as well, using washi tape. Now, if you are like me and in the front of your paper pads, I store all these leftover pieces, right? These are all big, they're all very usable, beautiful pieces, and in fact, I love this piece here. That's why I've been keeping it whole, and even this is going to work for today's technique. If you just wanted to use that, of course you don't put it on the copy paper, but just an option. I also have these little scraps here. Now, they're not all the same size or width, but we can make that work, so that could also work, and I think they would be good to use up today. Now, I have these happen to be the honeybee ones. There are a couple of companies who do them. These are the Deckle edge. This one is the A2 rectangles, and in a minute I'm going to use the circles as well with the Deckle edge. And all I have done is I want to do some die cutting, but I like to plan out where they're going to go. And so what I do is I die cut them out of regular copy paper or cardstock, whatever you would like. And then once I have them laid out how I want it to go, I'm going to lay the die over top of my die cut, and it's going to cut through perfectly because the cutting edge is free there. Now, this is directly onto a card base, so make sure you unfold it as you're going through. But I don't know, my brain was having a bit of a blip, obviously, because I don't need this to be on a card base. So ignore the fact that it's on a card base, pretend it's just on a card front, and actually I will realize this at the end and I will cut it off. So ignore the fact that it is a whole card base for the minute. But every time, even when I think I can line it up properly, I usually make these dies skew with. So doing this little trick definitely helps me. Now we have the card base ready to go. As I said, I don't need a card base. This is when I'm figuring it out. Right now you can see my mind churning over. So I will just grab my trimmer and cut this off. No worries, we can still make use of all those good pieces. Now we just have another card front for the next one. So what I will do here is these are going to go behind. Now this is just a really good way to remember to use these bigger but small scraps, right? They're kind of big enough for some things, but not big enough to sort of cover a card front or to do too much die cutting out of. They're sort of an annoying size to hang around. They fall out all the time. So I try and make sure that I use these up, and using them through a window or creating a window is a fantastic way to do so. So I have got some of the scrapbook.com 1mm foam tape. So actually it's, there's a little bit of dimension, but not too much. I've been really enjoying using this recently because I don't love huge dimension, mainly because I don't know where my cards are going, and I think some people like to mail them, so the little bit of dimension gives the idea of dimension without it being really thick if you're going to mail it. So I have the 1 inch wide and the 1/4 inch wide, and I just use both of them interchangeably on the back of the card wherever I might need them. And then I'm going to take this size smaller. This is just one idea. I'm going to show you a few. The size smaller rectangle, and you could place this back in the window, and you could again pop this up on a little bit of foam tape if you wanted to. You could stamp an image on these. You could cover these with washi tape before you die cut them. You could, I don't know, you could spell out the word dad or mum or whatever you wanted to. You could make more windows and spell out a baby name, or, lots of different ways. Now, this stamp set is from Hunkydory. It's called the Essential Overlay Sentiments. I've no idea if this is still available. I have had it some time. If it is available, I will of course have it linked down below. That's where you can check out all of the links from today's video. I'm using some powder blue Gina K ink, and this is just because it was a somewhat similar ink to the blue that's there, but honestly, I think it still looks fine. It doesn't really matter. It's got all the colours, it's got all the primary colours, and so I'm going to stamp the word happy, and then the birthday is going to slightly overlay, you could have it right in the centre if you wanted to. You could put it off to the side, but I decided just to slightly overlap. And I will stamp it out in some VersaFine Onyx black ink. So, even these gorgeous little windows, the world is your oyster as to what you can put in the window. It could be a little, a little die cut. It could be a little birdie like this one. This one was made from one of those Masterboards I created, and I just die cut a whole lot of elements. I have some plain white die cuts here, and actually I thought, yeah, they stood out quite nicely. And so plain, but super simple, right? Especially when you don't have a recipient in mind. I'm just creating general happy birthday cards for my stash. My family just pop on over and, they go through their stash, and sometimes they'll take half a dozen cards with them so that they have a card at their house ready to go for occasions as well. And so, yeah, just making generic, easy birthday cards that you can sort of give to anyone. Right, that is the first one. The next one here, as I said, I'm going to use the Deckle circles, again from Honeybee, and I have cut 3 out of the card front. You saw the process that I did in the first one, so I won't go through that again, but I did exactly the same process. And here is the washi tape background. Now look at this. Truly, it is like a millimetre short, a couple of millimetres short. And so I'm going to have to cut these up. I'm like, I can make this stretch. I can make this work. Honestly, what are the chances? So anyway, I measure one out, and I'm going to cut just a little bit bigger so that it will stretch either side and it will hit the foam tape. And I sort of picked out the bit of the washi that I like the most. So yes, I did, miss a bit off and cut a bit off, but that's okay. We were just creating a background, and I knew that's what I was doing when I was creating it. But goodness, if I'd only made it that little bit taller. Right, so I have my pieces ready to go. This is super simple. Again, I'm going to add all that foam tape to the back using the 1/4 inch and the 1 inch wide 1 millimeter foam tapes. Now, of course, if you want the 2 millimeter, I just buy the 1 so that I can double it up if I want 2 millimeter. I can triple it up if I want 3 millimeter. It gives me lots of options without having to store all of the options. And then I'm just going to pop these on the back because I have taken off the release paper from the foam tape here. And yep, I keep picking each of them up when I do this. Now, do as I say, not as I do, because I have no sentiment on here. Now, I definitely could have used a little, pre-printed sentiment, even one of my downloadable, free printable sentiments from my website. I could have used one of those. Those would have looked really good. But I did have this stamp set. This is by Creative Expressions, and this is called Sending Sunshine. I do like the little, you're such a sweet friend, and so that is actually going to fit down the side nicely. So I'm going to risk it and do some stamping. Now, I did decide that actually I liked the little elements in the stamp set too. So I'm going to stamp on these smaller size circles. So I die cut out 3 white little circles that are one size smaller than the Deckle edge circles I did for the card front. And then I just stamped a little part of each one of those images. I'm going to put this in my stamping platform. Now behind this, I have the Altenew, I think it's called like a sticky mat or something. I think it's meant for the stamp press, or I don't know, there's lots of tools out there these days. It's not necessarily meant for this, but let me tell you, it sticks onto my stamping platform beautifully. I don't need washi tape to hold them in place anymore, and I've been using it for quite some time, so I've been enjoying that. I did have to cut it down. I had to cut about 1 inch off the side so it would fit in my particular stamping platform, but yeah, I do like that. I would recommend. And then, of course, I have just popped these up with a little bit of foam tape behind them. I'm going to add my wonky borders just because this card is super sweet and simple. We managed to make the washi tape background stretch to reach the sides, which is great. And this was something that you can do to use up those, paper scraps from whatever project you may have, creating a window with dies, or you could even hand cut it. Or just create simple shapes using a craft knife as well. So that could be fun. But I hope that you have enjoyed this video. I will link everything down below. Check out my website for those free printable downloadable sentiments and more content. And I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.